Hey everyone, this is Will from Productions², and you are watching our 7th developers vlog for Combine Insurrection. I just wanted to kind of go over just a few things. It's not going to be that long of a developers vlog. Really didn't get too much done outside of mapping and working on textures, as you can see here. I wanted to get some more done with the coding side of things, but just wasn't enough time. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this structure here. So you'll see it in the screenshots over on ModDB, and you're probably wondering how it's made. Really, the idea came to me from, if you go back in our screenshots on ModDB, our ModDB page, all the way kind of towards the end of the image section, you'll find one from Nova Prospect 0, floor 1, that has kind of a similar setup. It's kind of a dome shape with buttresses sticking up, forming kind of a lighting situation. It's essentially the control room for that map. Now I got that. This is based on kind of a similar idea. The same kind of architecture, it's put there like a dome, except in this one, the dome's being made with actual geometry instead of models, and not as a room, but as just kind of a lighting apparatus. If you remember from the last updates, I said this map that I'm working on, which is going to remain nameless, and I'm actually going to also crop out the top of Hammer in the video so you can't see, because I want this to kind of remain a secret as long as possible of what this is for. But this map is going to be entirely done with texture lighting. There may have to be, I think there has to be one light entity in a map for it to load, to run VRAD, but other than that one light, which is sitting right here at the moment, I'll probably put it somewhere inside of a box or something outside of the map, just so it'll do that, is just as texture lighting. I wanted to do something a little bit different with this map. Just because of how, I guess, special you could say it is. But, and also because I wanted just to change the pace from doing normal things. I wanted to force myself to think differently with my mapping. And this is doing so. Because you have to consider what kind of, brushwork would allow for a certain amount of light. And you also have to go through and then figure out, the lighting and fine-tune it. And doing it this way, I think, will present more of an ambience than you can get with just light entities, which have a source that radiates from around that source. Like, for instance, if you go in here, if you look in here, you'll know that there's like a light entity here. She'll have like a huge white blotch here or something because it's right next against the ceiling. Even if you drop it down a little bit, you still have that more intense inner ring of light. Whereas with these, it just kind of emanates from the texture itself rather than from a specific point. So that you don't really get that kind of overlighting unless you have the brightness setting too high on the lights.rad file. So it's just a means of trying to get something that's a bit more creative, if you will. And if you can see with this, though, that I'm having some issues with Hammer and it not actually working properly with the vertex points. Actually went back to the forums and looked up a post I think I had made or somebody else had made. It was either that I made or somebody else made a while ago about how Hammer's messing with the vertex points. Well, it turns out that Hammer's not actually, it's not coded properly, I guess, to handle vertex points. Hammer can only deal with a certain type of float or something that deals with, essentially the precise point at which the vertexes are located. But when it saves it, it doesn't save it with that same thing. Maybe it can't, I'm not sure. But the end result is that you get stuff like this down here, where you get things that just get totally messed up. This is supposed to be flush with the floor up here, but it just gets thrown down and jagged and all that, and other mappers are probably had to deal with Hammer, and it's just totally retarded way of how it messes around with the vertex points. With these, though, what I'm doing is I'm actually repositioning all this stuff because, well, for one, I want to try and get everything on appropriate vertex points. And then also because we had some invalid structures here from how I was working with other things. But essentially what happened is that originally I just had these going as a solid arch, or I guess a solid half arch, half circular arch. And then I just had them running into each other and didn't look very well, very good. So I decided, what's it going to take to make all these join in the center without actually smashing into each other? And so I went through this whole process of figuring out how to actually do this, and I figured it out. Essentially, it just had to do with a bunch of different friggin' cuts and annoying, headache-inducing thinking. Essentially what you had to do was you had to take these two, then cut them back so they would work properly. So you just do like a series of cuts so that things would fit flush. Then you brought in these side ones, and then cut into these as you needed to make these flush with both sides, and do that with the other side as well, and then reposition everything so that they're all on the grid somewhere, and relative approximation of where they were when you put them originally cut them and placed them. It was a whole thing. Took a really long time. I think I spent about 4.5 hours making this thing total. Just this stage of it, getting this stage done. I'm still not done with it. And total is probably about 4 hours, 45 minutes to 6 hours, I think, total to do the whole concept from beginning to where I am now. But it kind of they come together at a single point, and they all fit together, or should, if Hammer didn't mess with the vertexes, or vertices, I guess, is the plural for that. But essentially, the main goal for this is I want to have kind of a dimly lit room where this apparatus here only lights the pad here, and where the lighting on the pad, which is that color, by the way, bluish color, will actually be what lights up the most of the room. It won't light up the whole thing, so I don't want it to light up everything, but I want it to fall off maybe about right here with the lighting, to where it falls off to total darkness. So that's just an interesting little thing I'm trying to do there. And here, I've started building out into the next area, which have a few ideas for that we're going to explore right now for lighting. So the first thing we need to do is, I'll show you what it looks like right now. It's essentially, it just opens up in all 4 directions up to a larger, kind of a downward path, I guess you call it. This is going to open up into a larger circular area. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it like this, or if I'm actually going to make it dome-shaped. If I do it dome-shaped, then it's going to have to be a displacement, probably. Which will be slightly annoying, so I'll have to no draw box it so it doesn't leak, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So what I'm thinking of doing is we're going to essentially kind of recreate something that was in one of my other older maps, in the mall map from C25, which is just that kind of open area that had the domed ceiling on it, that did have the circular bit. We're going to try and recreate that. So what I want to do is, first of all, we need to make a circular area here. Let's go to the material browser and just grab that. Be a lot faster than digging through the texture viewer. Alright, so cylinder, I'm going to go 26. It's a good round number. It's going to be a fairly large area. I mean, not fairly large, but larger than the area that we come from over here. So I want it to be a bit bigger. Maybe 1050. I want to make sure that we can get a center point lined up with this. Yeah, alright, that's good. second from this second. Yep, good. Alright, so let's go ahead and extend this out to 1050. This is kind of going to be like a hub area, if you will, where several corridors will meet, and they'll lead to different parts of this map. I'm not going to be able to keep the secret of what it is. I don't think for too long. So what we need to do now is we need to make sure that we're lined up with this down here. So that's where the floor is now. I also need to bring this down. Alright. So that's fairly large. Should work. Create. Alright, so we got our circular area here. What we want to do now is we need to do like an arch, if you will. Well, let's check this first. I want to see, are these all on points? If they're all on points, which it seems that they are, good. It's going to make it so much easier. It's on a point too, yeah. Let me put in the arches for this. Alright, so go back up to arch. So I'm going to go 26 and same dimensions. It's rather interesting. Huh. I guess there wasn't enough room to do the other point out there. Alright, so we got that matched. Still centered. Yes. Alright, wait. I guess it doesn't really matter. We could do it whenever. I'd rather do it now, though. So I don't want it to be too high, but also not too low. It's definitely got to be higher than the other area, though. We'll see how that works. We can adjust it if we need to. Wall width 16, preview. Okay. So what we need to do now is we need to rotate this 90 degrees. Then move it onto the grid. Of course, it isn't going to fit directly on the grid. We'll have to vertex edit it. I think it will. I'm going to squash this down to 42. Yeah, it does fit. Sweet. Okay, cool. That worked out better than I thought it would. Alright, so we got our thing here. First thing we need to do is need to ungroup it. And we need to essentially hide these. So what I want to do is I want to add these to a new group. We'll say new group. Call it hidden. And add these to it. Alright, so we can work with this segment here. So, what we want to do is we're going to change how these walls in 4 look right here. So it's going to kind of deform them a bit, as opposed to what they look like now. So it's going to be a little strange looking. But that's fine. As long as we keep everything from getting invalidated, it should be fine. So move that down there now. Or should we move it all the way over? Maybe we should do it all the way over. Oops. And then what we'll do is we'll take these walls. And we'll put in a triangle bit here. To seal that up. That looks a bit better, like an actual triangle. I'll do the same over here. So the idea I had for lighting was, oops, floor's a little bit off. Was that, I would take just a basic geometrical shape, like maybe a bar or something. Stretch it up, make it a little wider, and then cut into it in specific areas, and then turn those areas into lighting, lighted textures, so that the light would just emanate from those specific points. I'll have to see how it works out though. Alright, so we got our walls hooked in here. What we need now is to unhide these, and we need to raise these. To match the top of this. Or the bottom, rather. To match this edge here, where those two faces meet. Now what we need to do is we need to flatten these out. So, essentially, actually, we can do this just one. It'll be a lot less expensive that way. Just take the one, match up the points on the triangle on both sides. And we have ourselves a sealed section of walls here, at least for now. Now I need to do the top here, the ceiling. What I want to do with this is I want to make it kind of like a dome shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, going to copy paste it upward. I'm just going to set it up on top of this, like so. But what I'm going to do is we're just going to cut it several directions here. Start with just general cross through the middle here. Then we'll do from corner to corner here. So that should be this one. And also over here as well. Did I get that off of it? I did, didn't I? Well, no, that's the center. Or at least as far as how these connect to each other, it's the center. It's strange that that center's different than the center of the floor, though. That should be fine. So, although if I wanted to lower it, we could. It'd be a simple process. Wouldn't really mess with anything. Let's just do that. I want to make sure it's all lined up properly. So we got this here. Now what I want to do is I want to cut out a square in the center of this. And that's going to be extremely messy, but necessary. Also, we need to do something else first. We need to bring all these down to the edge of the wall instead of the outer edge, just so that it's not going to be displaying the. Well, the player won't really see. Well, I guess the player could see if they know draw the or no clipped, but I don't like hiding things out of plain sight to cover for my own laziness. So we're going to make this as if the player could see it in plain sight. Move all this stuff to the center. It always amazes me how long it takes to do things in Hammer, well, any mapping program really. And the amount of thought that has to go into what you do. To make sure things are correct to the way that you want them to look in the map, and how different elements of what you put into the map also attribute to that effect. For example, you might have something that looks cool, but then you put in the lighting and you realize the lighting makes it look droll or boring or less interesting than you originally thought it would. And so you have to either change the lighting or change the object itself. And if you have to change the lighting, there might be other things that you have to change because you changed the lighting. So it's really a whole complicated process of imagining, reimagining, building, rebuilding, compromise ideas, and banging your head against the wall. Alright, so that's all centered up and inside there. So now what we want to do is we want to try and do this in such a way that's not going to be crazy. For example, not going to cut across everything that we want. Okay, there we go. So, for example, we don't actually need those. What I want to do is we're going to just have that one point at there. No, it's not on. I need a section. I need somewhere this is actually on the grid. That'll be our starting point. Trying to find a point where this is actually on the grids is pretty hard though. What about here? Problem is, if you cut into this, it may produce some weird results. So I'm trying to find something that's actually on the grid, exactly on a grid point, even if it's like way up here somewhere. Just saw that might be right there. All right. So that also seems to kind of correlate. So we'll do a cut there and figure out how wide this is. 92, that's not that wide. It's hoping to be a little bit wider. You might be able to adjust it somehow, but maybe not. I might just have to deal with it. That's definitely not on the grid there, though. Damn. So that is not going to work. Let's see. What if we brought these points into contact with the square? In other words, for the time being, let's just move these back. That's actually an interesting shape. Maybe we'll keep it like this. Actually, that does look really interesting. Maybe we'll just keep it like that, and then fill in triangles and kind of a diamond shape in the center instead of my original plan. Alright, so here's how this will work then. Let's grab our tool here. Yeah, wedge first. Just create something, doesn't matter how large, because we can just vertex edit it into place. So we'll base it off of this one. So wherever the points are in this, we'll conform the rest to these.